It's all well and good to say that you need to prepare early for an assessment or an exam, but a lot of people are probably thinking, well, that's way easier said than done. So my question to you is, how did you actually develop that habit? How did you develop the discipline to get an assessment task and do it straight away so that you're not in the position that 95% of students are, which is that the night before they are having a really late night, finishing up, doing the editing, and they haven't had a chance to get all of those rounds of feedback that you've been receiving because you were so on the ball. So how do you actually develop that skill or habit? And, are there any tips? Like, do you just set an alarm, a reminder straight away? And, how did you actually ensure that you were doing that throughout year 12?
I think the habit developed pretty naturally as I went along because I always really wanted to succeed in my subjects all the way through. So from year 7, or even, you could say from primary school, I always really wanted to give it my all and succeed. And so I began to work out as I went through the years that there were certain times where I did succeed and there were certain times where I didn't succeed. And a pretty clear indicator of a time when I did succeed is when I was on top of it and on the ball. And another thing that really pushed me to this sort of method was I was really busy in year 12. So I did a lot of extracurricular. I remember one time in term 2 or something of year 12, I had so much stuff to do. I was doing stuff for cadets. I was doing stuff for school leadership. I was part of the stage crew for a musical, and I also had an English assessment. And so I was kind of forced into a situation where if I didn't get started early, it would be impossible for me to finish because I was just that busy, and I had all the things after school and the rest of it. So I guess I kind of forced my own hand there in terms of getting into a good study habit because, and that was also throughout the rest of my time at school as well. So also in year 10, year 11, and before that, I was always trying to get involved in things outside of my studies. And so alongside my desire for success, there was also this understanding that, this evening I'm getting home at 6 p.m. And so I have a shorter period of time. And also, I also put the burden on myself that I always wanted to sleep well, especially during year 12. So my days were fairly strictly 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. In terms of my sleep schedule. Obviously, 30 minutes over wasn't like the end of the world for me because I just thought as long as I'm getting around 8 hours, that meant that I understood that I had a time frame which was surprisingly limited because I had those hours. I had after 10 p.m. essentially knocked out, and then after 6 a.m. that's just like stuff getting ready for school, having breakfast, getting on the train or whatever. And so understanding that I had to be very economical with my time made me work towards getting onto deadlines earlier and putting in the work early rather than staying up really late. And so I think that's just in terms of what do you prioritize for year 12 or what do you prioritize for your studies? For me, I prioritize sleep and I prioritize getting involved in things outside of academics. And I also prioritize academics. And because I really wanted to balance all three of those, that meant that I naturally worked up habits which supported all three of those. And in terms of prioritize, I'm saying find what you really enjoy doing. And because I enjoyed doing all three of those things, and so I wanted to prioritize them, I had to get on top of the ball. And also, I guess there was also a sense of, I understand that when I leave things to the last minute, I don't feel great. And it doesn't make my life any easier. And I was always very pragmatic in that sense that I did want to make my life as easy as possible, especially in year 12.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense. The faster you can actually commence a task, the easier it's obviously going to be. But what you just said there just made me think, it does take a certain level of self-awareness to understand oh, hang on, I know myself. I'm not the best version of myself when I'm really stressed and I don't feel good about myself. I think that's a really important piece of it, is being able to foresee how you're going to feel about yourself if you don't do it straight away, and actually then being able to act on that. So that's obviously a great skill set, and just to have that awareness of how you feel when you do or don't do something in a certain way. I think that's a really important element there.